Firstly, this afternoon, I would like to start by commending and acknowledging the bravery, professionalism and efficiency of the Dublin Fire Brigade members that dealt with the fire in Ballymun in the Metro Hotel last night, and indeed many of them who are still on site this morning. 8 units of the Dublin Fire Brigade dealt with a rapidly dangerous fire that started in one of the apartments on the top floor. And units from Finglas, Swords, Tara Street, North Strand, Blanchardstown, Phibsborough and Tala were in attendance, with over 60 firefighters fighting what could have been a very, very serious blaze. And I think all of us are very grateful and thankful that there's been no one killed or injured. But it does show that the fantastic work that the Dublin Fire Brigade and the firefighters do, and indeed the 2 stations in Skerries and Balbriggan who were brought into service, the retained firefighters to provide cover. I think we'll return to this issue as well, Taoiseach, because there are lessons will need to be learned as well from this, and I think within the Department of Housing in particular. Today is not the day to raise those issues, but I and my party colleagues will be putting questions to Minister Owen Murphy at the appropriate time. This morning, though, I would like to raise a question with you that I've raised on a number of occasions, and it concerns passports and the service that our citizens are receiving. Last year, as you will know, over 800,000 passports were issued, and that was a record. I think all of us expect that that will be exceeded this year. And that is coming at a price, and that service, the increase in passport numbers, is actually affecting the paying public in relation to the service that they are receiving. Now, I do want to put on the record and commend the staff in the passport service for the work that they do, but the reality of the situation is now that turnaround times have greatly lengthened. That if you look at the website on the passport service, it says 16 working days. It isn't. It's 21 working days and greater. And I think all of us in this House will have received numerous complaints over the last number of weeks, in particular, about the service that is being received by people. Already this year, from the 1st of January to February the 16th, we had 129,000 applications alone, a 16% increase on that same period last year. And that's without coming into the holiday period itself. Now, normally, Taoiseach, and we have discussed this, temporary staff are employed to tackle the increased demand and the number of applications. But the government haven't actually dealt with this, the all-round and all-year-round increased demand due to Brexit in particular. And there seems to be, in my opinion, a detached approach, and that the government seems to be satisfied to allow the applicants to wait longer than the normal 15-day turnaround. And I actually particularly want to know, Taoiseach, do you accept now that the delays on the normal turnaround time are now the norm? And why is the government not planning to deal with increased demand by increasing staff for the all-year-round increased demand that we're receiving in the passport service?
3 minutes, Liz Hall.
Thank you. Was that 3 minutes? It was a long 3 minutes.
I give this man 3 minutes, and you 3 minutes.
He was only asking.
I was just accusing.
This is, excuse me.
I wasn't making any accusations.
Sorry, this is a serious business.
Any accusation.
Okay. Well, first of all, can I join with my my colleagues on both sides of this House in thanking the emergency responders last night to a very significant and extensive fire in the Metro Hotel, an apartment building in Ballymun. There were actually 11 units of Dublin Fire Brigade, 8 fire engines, 2 aerial appliances and the Incident Command Unit comprising of 60 firefighters involved in managing that blaze. And I think the professionalism that resulted in no loss of life should be recognised this morning in this House. 150 people were evacuated from that building. Nobody was injured. And it could have been a very, very different and tragic scene, and it wasn't. I think that is a reflection on the professionalism of our emergency services and first responders. Today, obviously, An Garda Síochána have the scene cornered off, and there will be a very extensive investigation to understand exactly what happened. But I do want to, as Deputy O'Brien has, thank them for their professionalism, and we will come back to this issue when we have more clarity in terms of what happened and why and how it unfolded. In relation to the passport issue, Deputy, the service has been under pressure for the last 2 weeks. In particular, and a number of members in this House will know that because they've come to me about individual cases. And we have tried to put extra resources in my office over the last number of weeks to try and deal with that. The main reason for it, we did anticipate and do anticipate increased numbers in terms of passport applications and renewals this year on last year, and last year was a big increase on the year before. There's a big demand for Irish passports now. But the real problem that we've seen in recent weeks actually was because of the extreme weather. We actually had to close our services down because we couldn't get staff into the passport office for a number of days. As a result of that, our passport teams were working on the bank holiday this week when other people weren't working in an effort to try to catch up and get back to the turnaround times that we have created last year, which are a significant improvement on the past. So whether it's online applications, whether it's post applications, we are endeavouring with some success to get back to where we were in January and indeed in the back end of last year in terms of getting the turnaround times down to roughly 3 weeks for the postal service, 2 weeks for an online application. But that is taking some time. And I think this week, in terms of online applications, we are back to where the benchmark, the acceptable benchmark is, and we are working overtime to make sure that we get back to that from a postal service perspective as well. But I think people have to understand there are lots of services in the country that have been impacted by severe weather. And this is one of them.
Look, with all due respect, that's a non-answer. I think we know that bad weather events, we know Storm Emma occurred. It does show the system isn't robust. If we're going to say that the reason is that we're backlogged and that people are waiting 5 and 6 weeks for passport renewals is because of Storm Emma, that's actually not true. The reality of it is the resourcing within the service has decreased year on year. If you go back to 2012, we had 306 full-time staff in the service. 2016, we had 269. We had a 12% reduction. Now, what I asked you specifically is, do you have plans to increase the numbers of staff in the service to deal with the backlog? Because we're nowhere near. If you go onto the website, it says 16 days for renewal. It's not 16 days. I would encourage people to use the online renewal service, obviously, as well. But first-time applicants or under 18s cannot. Now, what's happening at the moment, because the resources are not there, people are missing trips, they're missing holidays, big events in any given year, missing business trips. So look, the answer of saying, well, it's down to the weather, isn't really acceptable. What I want to actually, well, that's what you said. I really want to know, what's your plan to deal with this? This should not come as a surprise to you, because I've raised it time and time and time again with you. We're seeing peaks because of Brexit. We've seen increases since 2016. What have you done and what are you planning on doing to improve the service that the citizens of the country deserve?